Okay. I'm sure people will continue logging in the next few minutes, but this will be recorded, so we'll be able to share it with you. And I want to make sure we have a chance to get to everybody's questions tonight. So first of all, thank you for coming. My name is Megan. I'm a librarian with the Santa Clara City Library. Tonight, we're very excited to have Valley Water here to do this presentation for us. As you might know, this presentation is part of a larger programming campaign for our Community Reads program, Silicon Valley Reads. So if you are interested in learning more about that, I will drop some links in the chat just so you can see what else we're doing with Silicon Valley Reads this year. The theme is A Greener Tomorrow Starts Today. So water conservation is very relevant to that. As we go through the program tonight, there is a Q&A box. So please put any questions you have in the Q&A box. And then we'll get to them at the end so that we don't interrupt the presentation. Again, like I said, this program will be recorded and posted on our YouTube channel later this week if you want to reference anything. I also wanted to note before we start that we do have a water conservation specialist from the city of Santa Clara that's in attendance tonight. So she's not presenting, but her name's Victoria, and she will be in the chat to answer city-specific questions that you might have. So if you see her name, you'll know who she is. But tonight, the stars of the show, we have Gianna, Mike, and Nye from Valley Water, and I know that's who you really came to see, so I'm going to pass it off to them. Thanks, Valley Water.
Okay. Thank you, Megan. I will start. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting us this evening. My name is Nai Xue, and I am the 2024 chair for Valley Water's Board of Directors, and I represent District 5, which includes Sunnyvale, Cupertino, Saratoga, and West San Jose. In this evening's presentation, I will share with you the services Valley Water provides to residents and businesses in Santa Clara County, with an emphasis on the water conservation and drought preparedness. So we'll go to the next slides. So Valley Water's mission is to provide Santa Clara County with safe, clean water for a healthy life, environment, and economy. So how do we do that? We do that through three main areas: supplying clean, reliable water, and providing flood protection, and being stewards of the environment. So in the focus area of supplying clean, reliable water, you can consider Valley Water as the water wholesaler for Santa Clara County. In the county, there are 13 local water providers. Some of them are investor-owned utilities, such as San Jose Water Company and Cal Water. And some of them are municipalities, such as the City of Sunnyvale and City of Palo Alto. These 13 water providers receive water from Valley Water and deliver the water through their system to individual homes and businesses. Valley Water also have approximately 5,000 direct customers. These are the well owners who pump water from groundwater basin for their water supply purposes. So how do we do it? This is a huge task, and we do this through managing and operating a complex and integrated water supply infrastructure, including storage, transmission, treatment, and recycled water facilities. So now moving on to the second area, which is the flood protection. And Valley Water, as the flood protection agency for Santa Clara County, we manage approximately 275 miles of creeks. Through decades of investments and efforts in building flood protection projects, approximately 100,000 parcels are protected from 1% flooding event. I'll explain what's 1% flooding event. That's the flooding event that has a 1% chance of happening every year. And currently, there are several major flood protection projects that are under construction. As these projects are completed, there will be more parcels to be protected from the 1% flooding event. For example, the Coyote Creek in city of San Jose that's under construction, and Yagas Creek in city of Morgan Hill, which is also under construction right now. And moving on to our third focus area is on being good stewards of the environment. We achieve this in many ways, including taking care of streams and watersheds, removing fish passage barriers, hosting cleanup days, and many other efforts. And in order to do all the things I just described, we have approximately 900 employees working. We're a 24/7 organization every day, and a budget of $838 million for this current fiscal year. As you all know, that climate change is a major challenge for water business. The extreme weather pattern accentuates the frequency, the duration, and intensity of droughts and floods. Therefore, we really appreciate the opportunity to discuss water with you this evening. Although today's presentation is more focused on drought strategies and preparedness, we hope to, in the near future, have other opportunity to discuss with you other services that Valley Water provides to the county. Anytime you see that we can fit into your series of the green future, we'll be happy to come again. Thank you very much, and I will now turn the presentation to Mr. Mike Potter, who is our manager from our Office of Communication.
Thank you, Chair Shui. It's great to be with you all, and nice to know that there's a representative from the Santa Clara Municipal Water Conservation expert to check our work here, a fact checker, so to speak. I've been at Valley Water a little over 4 years. I grew up in this area and have worked in public policy and for a tech company and had just a variety of roles. But I lead our community outreach program with Gianna and a couple others on our team, and we do the public meetings for all of the projects that Valley Water undertakes in all of its 3 areas, as well as the Speakers Bureau program, which we're doing tonight. And so we'll go into this. This is our map of our 7 directors. We're a government agency, formerly known as the Santa Clara Valley Water District, but been rebranded as Valley Water. And you can see the boundaries on the map as well. And we have 2 new directors, Director Eisenberg, who represents from Palo Alto along the west side of our county, and Director Bell, who is kind of in the south central part of our county, Cambrian, South San Jose, and Campbell. And so we're excited to have 2 new directors on board. Let's go to the next slide, Jim. This really, and so we're going to talk a lot about conservation and the programs Valley Water has. But before we get to that point, we want to talk a little bit about where our water comes from and why it makes so much sense to be conservation minded when we bring, when you find out we bring some of our water in from hundreds of miles away. So this chart shows about the history of our county. The blue line is the groundwater elevation. So how deep do you have to go to get water in your pipe? And then the green line is the population. So if you go back to 1900, there were not a lot of people here at all. And all you had to do is dig a well and you'd have all the water you needed for your farm or for the small towns that were here. There wasn't a lot of people. And so, but the word started to get out about what a great place Santa Clara County was. And people dug more and more wells, and they planted more and more trees, and they built more and more houses. And so as the timeline moves forward, you see the 20s and 30s, we had a drought actually in the 20s, and people started to over pump from the ground. So in some parts of our area, the ground actually sank. And so we'll show a little bit about that. But in 1929, Valley Water was created to try to address our groundwater supply and to come up with a way to protect it and also to sustain it so that we could use it, but also replenish it. And so that's what we did. You can see the blue line. Once we started coming up with plans, we built some reservoirs. We built perk ponds, areas where water would go and it would percolate into the groundwater aquifer so that we could use it later on when we needed it. And so the blue line started to go up in the 40s. And what happened in about halfway through the 40s is World War II ended, and thousands of people came through this area on their way to different parts of the Bay Area or to Fort Ord. And so people came back here and wanted to live. And so more and more houses were built. So that population number starts to go up and the blue line goes down because we were reliant mostly still on groundwater and local supplies. And so it got pretty dangerously low, and parts of our area were over pumped and sank 13 feet. Some of those are very near Santa Clara. So Alviso and others, and some of the critical infrastructure out near the bay is actually below sea level, which is problematic when there's a high tide or when there's a flood. So the water district you can see green dot number 4 in the early 60s joined the state water project to get some of that water brought in from out of the county and used it to replenish the groundwater. Population at that point, this was the creation of Silicon Valley. It went through the roof. We passed 1 million people. And so there still wasn't enough water for all of our needs and for the anticipated future growth. So green dot number 5, we joined the Central Valley Project and imported a considerable amount of our water. We use it both for purification, but also to replenish our groundwater through those perk ponds, and we stored we had stored it in Anderson Reservoir. Let's go to the next slide, Gianna. This shows a little bit about how San Jose sank 4 feet during the last 4 years, that headline. And then there was an election, a key election in San Jose, vote for water or vote for a desert. I think that was a bond campaign, but it spoke about the subsidence issue and how we needed to vote to keep ourselves from, having the land sink. What happens when it does that is you can't bring it back. It's like a sponge, but when you squeeze the water out, you can't raise it back up. And so some of those areas are still below sea level. This shows our 100 square miles had more than 1 foot of subsidence in that whole zone there, from Palo Alto, downtown San Jose, parts of Campbell, all the way up to Milpitas. And so this picture shows before 1914, you would just drive in on the road and go to the Alviso Yacht, the South Bay Yacht Club in Alviso. And now you go in and you go up a series of steps to get to the levee that where that yacht club is located, and then you go back down to get to the water. So it's really quite a dramatic change. And this is where we get our water. Again, 50% comes from outside our county, some from the Sierra snowpack that melts and fills our reservoirs. About 10% of our county gets its water from Hetch Hetchy, which is run by the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission, and brings it in from outside of Yosemite, and it comes down to Calaveras Reservoir in Milpitas Hills. And there's a couple of pipelines. There's one across the bay, and there's one kind of that runs through North San Jose, right south of Highway 237, so on Tasman. And so that's where parts of North Santa Clara, because you have a municipal utility, are able to access that water. And so is North San Jose, Milpitas, Sunnyvale, and Mountain View, and then all of Palo Alto gets its water there. We reuse about 5% of our water. We'd like to see that double. And again, about 30% is locally captured rainwater in our reservoirs and natural groundwater. So there are parts that are still undeveloped and built on, and when it rains, that water sinks down eventually into our aquifer, and we are able to reuse it. And then we get we target about 15% for conservation. This is where we use our water. About 55% indoors, 30% is business. Agriculture is 8% still of our local water supply. It's probably more than you thought. I'm not sure how much agriculture there is in city of Santa Clara or other parts, but a lot of it's in the South County. And that's where a lot of those well customers that are Valley Waters customers. And so the residential water use, about half is indoors the usual ways: toilet, sinks, showers, washer and dryer. One that particularly jumps out is the 12% of residential indoor water use could be a leak. So we have programs to help people locate their leaks, or are there leaks, and then the other part that we really target for conservation is the outdoor residential use. There's a Mediterranean climate, and about 27.5% of all our water in our county is used for landscaping and outside the house. So with some minor changes, we have programs that will help you reduce how much water you actually use or will need to use, because we encourage people to take out or shrink their lawn and plant native plants or those that use very little water, so that we can kind of cut back on the size of that pie. Let's go to the next, Jim. There we go. This is our current system: 10 reservoirs, 3 pump stations. There's 142 miles of pipelines. Some of them are giant pipes to supply water, 32, 40 inches, and 3 water treatment plants. We have 1 water purification center in Alviso, right near Santa Clara, and then 277 acres of groundwater recharge. These are the percolation ponds. You'll see them on, there's a big set of them over by Highway 17 in Campbell, right near 85. So that interchange there. And this is part of our challenge. This is Lexington Reservoir in August of 21. It's at a limited capacity, 23%. Fast forward to January, 100%. So we can go from drought conditions to flooding, or plentiful water conditions at any time. It kind of really highlights our changing climate that Chair Shwaya mentioned, and the more extreme weather. We have to be ready for everything. We're going to have drier dries and wetter wets, and so we have to be able to adapt to what's happening. So the next, and this is part of our adaptation process, and it's also a critical piece of our water supply system, is the Anderson Dam seismic retrofit project. The before picture is on the left. That's the way it was, and when it was full. It was determined that it was, when it was built in 1950, it was built to code, but that there was some soil compaction that was done differently back then. And so we were looking at ways to fix that. It was determined that if this were full and there were an earthquake, it could slump and cause a catastrophic event. Morgan Hill under 25 feet of water very quickly, and then San Jose downtown would have 10 feet of water in 2 hours. So the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, which governs this particular dam, declared it unsafe and for it to be brought down to zero, or dead pool. And so we drained it in October 2020 to comply with that order, and construction's been underway ever since. You can see on the picture on the right, the current, you see that little, kind of looks like a little bowl there against the dirt, the cement bowl. That's the tunnel project. That's going to be a new outlet that's going to be many times larger than the current outlet. The current outlet brings out about 425 cubic feet per second at its best. And this new one will be able to do 5 times, maybe 10, 8 times that. So we'll be able to lower the reservoir much more quickly in advance of atmospheric rivers that are heading for it. And so that we will not risk having water go over the spillway, which is still safe, but it comes out at it's a volume of water in the creek that we can't control. So we'd like to be able to control it. This is a under construction picture with a nice sunset across the way of that's going to be a diversion structure, and that foundation goes down in some places 40 feet to make sure that when the water pressure comes through, they can diffuse that current so that it trickles into the creek instead of washing out the creek. And so there's some serious rebar and concrete. This is the inside the tunnel. It's 24 feet across. It's 1,700 feet long. They're done with the tunnel portion, and they're doing now at the end of the other end of the creek, at the reservoir end, they're doing a tap into the below water level to be able to create a new lower intake so that we'll be able to drain the reservoir more completely. But they'll have cement and it'll all be smooth and beautiful when it's all done. And then there'll be giant pipes in it. So, and we have some videos of that construction on our Valley Water website that show, the explosives we use and other techniques. This is a project near to your area in the northern part of our county, the South Bay Shoreline Project. designed to create a really a flood-worthy levee across the bay to protect from Coyote Creek to the Guadalupe River and parts of Santa Clara as well. So this is a huge project that's underway and will also be able to adapt the area to sea level rise. And this is kind of a map of it there across Alviso and the sewage treatment plant that if that were ever to be flooded and unusable, that would create substantial problems for our whole county. And these are the salt ponds that are a part of this as well that'll be returned to tidal action. This is what happens when we don't have levees like that, and then when we have great big storms. This is Alviso during one of its many floods, and then this is the actual shoreline project. You can see them building that levee up and building it to code. There's a great video with a drone that flies over it. It goes quite far out into the bay, and some parts of it will have expanded trails as well. And this is part of our solution to the droughts and to finding a way to expand our water supply by reusing water that we already have. So every dishwasher, every shower, everything that goes out to that treatment plant and it gets turned into purple pipe water, we will take that purple pipe water and purify it to distilled water standards, and we can use that. We're no plans currently to use that for direct use, but we will put it into the purple pipe. And we're also exploring building another plant like this to pipe that water to the Campbell Perk Pond so we can use that to replenish our groundwater. So we're considering this site and adding to it in San Jose. We don't control the sewage treatment plant. That's the city of Santa Clara and San Jose and Milpitas that govern that. And so that's the supply water. So we need to have an agreement with them. And we've had great conversations about expanding this. So we're very hopeful that we'll be able to add another plant like that. And this is what it does. It takes the purple pipe water, uses microfiltration, reverse osmosis, UV light disinfection, and advanced oxidation to essentially create distilled water. And we blend that right now with this plant. Can do 10 million gallons a day. We blend it with the purple pipe water, the recycled system that goes all the way down to the Calpine power plant in San Jose. And so that by putting the pure water in with the purple pipe, it dilutes the salts, and so it doesn't. The trees like it better when it's not as salty and have as many minerals. So it's very impressive, and we have free tours for that. And so it's something I'd really encourage you to consider going. You can go to that website, Pure Water for You, number 4, and set up a tour. And this is our key message here. Water conservation is the way of life in Santa Clara County. Let's say yes to saving water. And everything I'm about to mention is on our watersavings.org website. How to get rebates to take out your lawn, gray water rebates, efficient shower heads and aerators. We have rainwater and cistern. A barrel under your rainwater, under your rain gutter, captures all the runoff during a storm. That's not modern technology, but it's a great way to capture some of that water and then use it for, like a day like today when it's nice and sunny. You don't have to turn on your sprinklers. We'll come out and do water waste inspections. Not everybody wants to confront their neighbor, or maybe it's an office building that runs water down the street every day when they water the lawns that no one ever uses. So we'll come out and we'll talk to them. We'll say, hey, it looks like you're wasting water. And so that way you don't have to. And then we do a survey. We'll come out and do an outdoor survey of your property and say, hey, this is areas where you could, you probably have some leaks going on over here. Maybe your sprinklers leaking, that kind of thing. And then these are really key programs we have through some of our voter approved funds. We have grant programs that we give grants to organizations and nonprofits that do great things. You may have seen the drinking fountains that work for water bottles. If they're at a school, they probably were put in with a grant from Valley Water. I think we've hit every school that's asked for one, or maybe every school there is. It's been very successful and very popular. We do education outreach. We will send people to your school. They'll come out and do a curriculum and give that to the teacher about water conservation and the water cycle. And then we have a youth commission. So anyone that's college age or in high school, you can be. We have, I think, 3 youth commissioners per director, and they serve for a year or 2, and they get to learn and be a part of spreading the word about the things we do at Valley Water. Probably one of our most fun days is the one day a year when the Youth Commission takes over Valley Water's social media. And they're very creative and have some really fun stuff. And then for those that are not in college age, we have a Water 101 Academy where we will take a cohort of people through a year, and they'll do a series of meetings with some of our policy leaders and subject matter experts to learn even more. And the people that are part of this program are called water ambassadors. So that's kind of a nice thing to be called an ambassador. So something to think about if you want to do a deeper dive into the Valley Water. And then the Adopt a Creek program, we have groups that adopt sections of creek and go out and clean it periodically, and we provide a lot of the materials to help you do that, the bags and gloves and things like that. And we encourage people to do that all the time. And then this is a key matter. We're in the process of, how much water will our county need in 2050? I'm not sure I know all the reasons, the things that we need to consider for that, but the smartest people at Valley Water are working on this master plan. How much water will we need and where will it come from? And we're going to put in climate change and all these other things. And can we bring that water in from outside the county, or do we create more of our own? And so this is a way for you we need to hear from you, like things you think we should be looking at as a part of the water supply master plan. So this QR code here, you can help us and attend some of those meetings or share your thoughts about what we should be doing. And similar to that, our capital improvement program, Chair Shway is also the chair of our capital improvement committee, which determines our 5-year construction and capital projects, are the infrastructure things that we're doing. And a lot of our infrastructure is getting older, and it's 50, 60, 70 years old, past its useful days. And so we're rebuilding a lot of what we have out there as well. So this committee determines what's in the 5-year capital improvement program. And so we'd love to get your feedback on that as well. And this QR code here tells you how to do that. And then we're really excited to answer any questions you have. If we didn't touch on something, or if you'd like us to go deeper into it, we'd be happy to do that. Hope I didn't talk too fast.
Oh, sorry. Thank you,
No, it's
Mike
okay.
and I.
Sure.
Yeah, so this is your chance to ask any questions that you have. You have the experts here. They're here for you. So you can go ahead and put your question in the Q&A box, or if it's easier for you, just type it in the chat. You can do that too.
Wondering if there are any special programs residents of Santa Clara have that the city of Santa Clara supports its residents with, that from a water conservation standpoint.
That's a great question. So I'm going to give Victoria a chance. If Victoria, if you want to put some of your favorite programs the city has in the chat, while I go to the Q&A box, and then I can always add some stuff later too from the city website. But we did get a question. Somebody read that Anderson was built on a fault. Is that true?
That is true. I don't know that they knew there was a fault there when it was built in 1950. It complied with all of the codes and environmental review that they did at that time. But I think the fault was better understood more recently. And so plans were a lot of time was spent trying to figure out what would happen and how bad would it be. And maybe we can fix it rather than having to rebuild it. So it's a 10-year long project now, because we have to build a new tunnel, which will be done next year, and then or the end of the year. And then we have to start to slowly take the dam down carefully. We can't keep it all the way down and then have a wide open canyon. So we have to go down, stop, wait for the rainy season, and then go back down and then start back up. So it's a complicated project. There's a county park, county and city park nearby. And so we're going to get all of the soil material from the local area. So we won't be bringing trucks of stuff in from outside the area, but it's going to be an intrusive project for a 10-year period. We're 2 years into it. So we got eight years to go. And it's critical for our operations. That's where we put the imported water. And we don't always need to use it, but it's a place we can put it. It holds all of the other reservoirs we've built in our county combined. And so it's 90,000 acre feet capacity. We're going to rebuild it to the same capacity. But just on those pictures of the reservoir, that's like a 3-lane road across the top. It's a pretty big place, and it's hard to get the scale when you go out there. But it's going to be really, really good when it's over. So you see this road across the top there. That's a 2-3-lane road, and that spillway. I think that we could probably, if we had the X Games in there, it'd be a pretty amazing place for some adventure sports. But it's really when it's full of water, it's like a waterfall going. It just shoots out that spillway, and when this fills up, there's also a fault line under there's a Coyote Reservoir that feeds into Anderson, and there's also a fault near that dam, but that one they knew about. So it's been very careful, and we keep those at a limited capacity for those reasons. How'd I do, Chair? Did I get everything?
We got a follow-up question about that.
Yeah. Okay.
Does Anderson need any seismic work done to ensure that it's earthquake safe in the future?
The key issue was how the soil was compacted, the material was compacted when it was built. And so there was a part in the back that if it was full of water and there was an earthquake, it could slump. And so that's the part we have to go all the way down to there and then rebuild it from scratch. It's all dirt and rock and material. It's not concrete. But it is quite it looks like a very pointed, but it's actually kind of goes gradual out into the reservoir there.
Yeah, and this project that, as Mike said, that basically we're rebuilding the existing Anderson Dam because it was built in the 1950s, which was what, 70 years ago. And the knowledge at that time and the design standards cannot compare with what we know today, and then the design standards of today. So the redesign of this project is the State of California Department of Dam Safety has the oversight of the structural aspect of this design and construction. And also there's a board of consultants who are experts in geotechnical engineering and the dam safety. They are on the ongoing basis providing inputs to all technical issues related to seismic design and also doing construction. So everything that can be done are being implemented to ensure that this huge project and also very expensive project will meet the seismic retrofit goals and objective, and hopefully it will stay there for, I wouldn't say hopefully, and I have confidence it will stay there for many decades.
Another 70 years, let's hope.
Yeah, another 70 years. Yeah. In a way that, so although it is a water supply facility and it is a water supply project, but the board also considered this project as a health and safety project, because if we don't do this, if a seismic event and because of the fault under the reservoir, it could cause a huge damage, maybe even loss of life downstream of the dam along Coyote Creek, and particularly in Morgan Hill and city of San Jose. So yeah, it is also the health and safety aspect of the project that concerns the board, and then that's why we're investing so much effort and money in rebuilding this dam. Absolutely.
You can see on the picture of the current, if you look right at the very bottom of that image, you see they're beautiful homes. They were just recently completed and occupied in the last 2 years. So you know, this is a complicated project. That these are $2.5 million homes in the shadow of the Anderson Dam seismic retrofit project, which is going to go on for 10 years. So we are working really hard to be good neighbors, and we have regular communications and community liaison for them. But it's also a seismically unsafe dam. So the outlet's been open for since 2020. In December of last year, during the drought, it was at Deadpool. It was empty, and by the end of March, the reservoir was 55% full. From that was a record set of rain that we had last year in January, February, and March. So it took 95 days for the water to drain out to get back to Deadpool after that. So there's a good reason we keep it empty, and that's the reason. Is if we were to have storms with this current outlet, we can't lower the reservoir fast enough, and if it fills up and we have an earthquake, it's a catastrophic event. And so 25 feet of water in Morgan Hill in 8 minutes, and then 8 to 10 feet of water in Coyote Creek in 2 hours. So it's a health and safety, and Congresswoman Lofgren has made sure to remind everyone that those are her constituents in the path of this if this were to happen. And so there are 13 environmental and regulatory agencies that have to sign off on this project. It's a complicated process. Several of them have missions that, are directly, one is the life of the fish in the creek. What are you doing to protect them? And the other one is like, what are you doing to protect the people that live outside that could be impacted if this collapses? So it has been a very complicated project, and part of the way it's been able to move forward is our directors and other local electeds they meet quarterly to try to push this through on something called the Tiger Team. It's been Congressman Lofgren has been a real champion for getting this project going and done, and funding from the federal government to help. We've gotten some terrific financing, low-cost financing to help make this work. That's probably, if you have more questions, I answer more. We could do a whole meeting about that, but it's critical to it's the linchpin for everything we do. And so we have to get it back online.
Thank you. And in your responses, you both mentioned Coyote Creek. We actually got a question about Coyote Creek. Somebody noted that they've noticed a lot of debris from the unhoused population there. And is the district doing anything to address that? Absolutely. No, we hear this. This is a very common question. And so we're a countywide special district. We own and manage or are responsible for about 250 miles of creeks and waterways in our county, but there are over 800 miles of creeks and waterways in our county. So there are many parts of it that are not something that Valley Water can go in, and many of them are privately owned. So we can't go in and even on the Coyote Creek, we own a few pieces of it, but much of it is owned by the city or the county or a private owner. So we have permits to do work on the land that we own and are responsible for, and we do cleanups and remove hazardous plants or invasive plants. But about 100 tons of debris per month is removed every month from our creeks and waterways. The team that does that and they can't work remote doing that work. They were out there during the pandemic and they're still out there every month with 100 tons of debris. And so imagine how bad it would be if we weren't doing that, which is sort of, not to make a cop out, but we are doing, and we're active and we have tools. If you see debris, we have on our Valley Water webpage, you can report that location using something called Access Valley Water. And it's kind of our in-house software management thing. And you can complain, you can send a picture of that location and the coordinates on a map, and we'll get that to our team and get it in the queue. And during an emergency, if there's a problem on somebody else's thing, if there's a tree that's under a culvert, we will go in, and we have crews that do that during flood events and remove the debris and trees as well. Thank you. Switching up topics a little bit. Somebody asked if there's any plan to implement low water use flushing toilets in this area, and if so, what's the timeline?
It's a great question. We work with all of the cities to come up with a we don't govern any land use. So the city of Santa Clara, city of San Jose issues building permits and the conditions by what they build and what goes in them. And so all of them, I think, have adopted programs to use lower flow and state laws. And there's rebates, for those to use less water per flush and things like that. We have a model ordinance that we're encouraging all the cities to adopt that has other types of, like, what types of water, maybe putting in double water meters. So when the recycled water gets to your area, you could use it. If you're a new condo complex, use the purple pipe water for your landscaping, that kind of thing. But we can't tell anybody what toilet to put in. But we encourage them, and we probably help pay for some of the lower flush ones. We probably did some rebates back in the day, as I recall now. I bought a wash machine. I got a rebate from Valley Water way before I worked here for $50 to get the more water efficient one.
Well, I can add something to that, since I worked here longer than
Oh, that's right.
yeah, longer than Mike. The low water use toilets, actually, I think Valley Water started a program to reimburse. I think it's as I remember, the $100 per toilet is for switching your existing toilet to a low flow toilet. That program started in the 80s. So it's been very successful. And lately, there's the program is getting to a point that it can be closed, because there's really not applications for reimbursement on the low flow toilet. In the 80s, per flush, I think it takes about 6 gallons of water to per flush. And then today, all the product that's on the market only use, I don't know the exact number. I think it's 1.3, but it's 1 point something.
Well, there's
gallon.
two buttons as well. So depending on
Yeah.
which button you push, it could be even less.
Per flush. So I've always feel that government's incentive for industry to change to a newer product. This is a great example of success. So and then thinking about from 6 gallon per flush to 1.3 gallon per flush, the amount of water that's saved in the Santa Clara County, that number is huge.
Huge, like a whole reservoir full right there from that one change.
And that water saved, it's not a temporary save, it's a permanent save, because once you have a low flow toilet that stay with you, and then it's on an ongoing basis, it's saving that much water for Santa Clara County.
Thank you. We got another question about rebates. This one is in the chat. Can I install artificial turf and receive a rebate?
Our program doesn't cover artificial or the turf because it has additional environmental impacts despite the water. So that's not covered. Our board, I think, made that choice as a part of this, but it's what we've learned in this last drought is there's productive turf and there's non-productive turf, and that's regarding regular lawns. Is if the only time someone sets foot on it is when it's being mowed, it's not really productive turf. If it's the soccer field that everyone is using all day long, every day, Saturdays and Sundays, that's productive turf, and that should be sustained. But if the decorative lawn is only there out by the driveway or in front of a office building and no one ever uses it, there's a lot of other things you can put there than lawn.
Yeah, if I can add a little bit more about artificial turf. So currently, our policy and then our incentive program does not encourage installation of artificial turf. As Mike mentioned, that there's additional environmental impact. For example, that there's a potential leaching of chemicals from the turf, artificial turf into the groundwater basin, which we none of as the water quality protector agency for groundwater basin, we really do not want to see that happen. And also that artificial turf does not encourage natural, I would say, ecosystem that if you have a drought-resistant California native landscape type of replacement, how you're encouraging butterflies, birds, and all kinds of bees and whatever to come to your front yard. But artificial turf does not does not do that. It's basically it's a piece of plastic in a way. Yeah. So that's, and also that this is a story I heard from people's real life experience, that it absorbs heat. So in a very hot day, the person I talked to, he actually needs to spray water on his artificial turf in order to lower the temperature. So it's very ironic. So that's so based on those reasons that we do not encourage artificial turf. Therefore, we don't have an incentive program for that.
There's two ways you can approach it. There's the stick approach, which is this is illegal, you shouldn't do it. We don't really have the power to do that on a lot of things, but we do have the carrot. So we'd like you to put in or take out your lawn and put in these plants, and we'll help you pay for that. And so the water district has a carrot approach to incentivize these behaviors, but it doesn't, we're not telling people how to live or banning those types of things. I did see from Victoria that the City of Santa Clara offers a cost sharing those wishing to convert lawns into waterways gardens up to $5,000 for residents. So I think we do up to $3,000, and Santa Clara adds a little more, and up to $110,000 for businesses. And it has a rain barrel rebate program. And one of the things, so I have a little patch of grass in my backyard. We hook a hose up to the wash machine, and that we use that to water. You know, so when my son's visiting, we do a lot of laundry. And so, but that's a way to also kind of repurpose water that otherwise would just go into the to the treatment plant.
Great, thank you. Moving topics again, this time to reservoirs. Somebody noted the amount of rain that we've had in the past few months and asked if it affected the reservoirs, and is the possibility that the reservoirs are dried up reduced this year. This person noted they don't know the capacity of the reservoirs.
Some of the reservoirs we don't fill all the way to the top because they're similarly older, and we want to make sure that they are in good shape. But most of our water our reservoirs have been very full to as much as we can hold. I think 89–90% after the last storms. And then what we often do is we work to keep the aquifer. So we pump water out from underground every year, no matter what. But while we use this water to make sure we bring in the water so that we replenish it. So we always put in more than we take out. If we don't do that, then that's when the sponge gets switched.
Thank you. We also got a question from somebody who noted that they're a customer of San Jose Water. So you can say if you can answer or not, but they received a notice some months ago that their water source had been switched to groundwater. Do you know why the change occurred and what the previous water source was? And was it possibly related to the draining of Anderson?
Probably related to work we're doing at one of the water treatment plants. And then but different times of the year when we bring in water, we can switch to groundwater. But San Jose Water Company is our biggest customer. We make sure that they have water to sell to their customers. But the reason they notify people is that sometimes you can notice a different taste when they switch to groundwater versus the imported water.
And I don't know the detail, but I know that San Jose Water Company, that their source of water Number one is from our Valley Waters treatment plant. So as Mike just mentioned, that we are doing major work in one of our treatment plant, that's the Rinconada water treatment plant. Maybe that's the reason that San Jose Water needs to shift to their other water source, which is groundwater. San Jose Water Company owns quite a few large wells. They do pump groundwater for their water supply, and then they have their own methodology and then technology and need to blend these different sources of water, and before the water is delivered to user. So depending on the percentage of water coming from our treatment plant or water pumped from the groundwater basin, that's what Mike talked about. The taste may be different, or there may be a little bit more cloudy because one source of water is more than the other. So that's the reason.
Okay. Those were all the questions we had in the Q&A box. So everybody, we still have about 8 more minutes if you have questions. So I'll just wait a minute or two to see if more questions come in, and then if not, we could call it a night. Or Victoria, if you have anything else you want to add, Mike and I, if you have anything else you want to add, but I'll just wait a minute to see if people are typing their questions now.
John, if you could put up the slide for the ways to get involved again, consider the Youth Commission or the Water Ambassador Program. I think we just closed, but for next year, the Water 101 Academy and our education outreach and grants, those are some really key things that we do. And these were all a part of much of these were included in measures that were approved by the voters. So that's how we're able to work on those. Victoria mentioned that in the chat that Santa Clara relies on its groundwater wells for 62% of its potable water distributed. Yeah, we also don't have bottled water at Valley Water. We have tap water, and so we don't spend district resources. When we do an event, we fill it up, we fill the jug up, and we bring it to the event. So.
Okay, I don't see any more questions coming in, so I just wanted to say thank you again to Gianna and Mike and Nye from Valley Water. Thank you to Victoria from City of Santa Clara. I'll be sharing this recording when it's ready, if you registered for the Zoom. And then somebody had asked if we could send some of the links out, so I'll do that as well with the email. We just got a very nice comment, a very nice private comment. Thanks for the fantastic presentation. It really helped my understanding of our water sources and resources. So thank you very much, Valley Water. As you leave the program tonight, a quick survey will pop up on your screen. If you can fill that out, that's helpful for the library to know what programs to give for you in the future. Again, this is part of our Silicon Valley Reads program. So if you're interested in learning more about environmental sustainability, come to our recycling program next week. And thank you again, Valley Water.
Thank you so much, Megan.
Thank you for inviting us.
I'm sure you have some materials at the library that would help people expand their knowledge, right?
Yes, you can always come ask at the reference desk, and we're happy to connect you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.